Part 77. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 761. Zioxiu, open the door. It was Wang Fengqiao's voice. The first time she stayed in a guest house, Wang Fengqiao had no experience, so she avoided the reunion of the young couple. However, after the waiter brought her hot water, she listened to the waiter's reminder and learned that the guest house also had guest house rules. Men and women are different and cannot live in the same room. Not even as a couple. This situation is the same as visiting relatives and staying at a relative's house. Gay men live in one room and lesbian women live in another room. Even husband and wife cannot live in the same room when there are guests at home. After Wang Fengqiao gained experience, she was afraid that Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu would do something to affect their future. Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu are both soldiers with great futures. What a pity it would be to be affected by this. There were so many pairs of eyes in the guest house staring at her, paying special attention to the living style of the guests. Don't think she didn't see it. Lu Zhang quickly adjusted his expression and opened the door. Auntie, what's the matter? Did Zibao and Fuebao sleep? Wang Fengqiao stretched out her head and took a look inside. She saw that the two people were neatly dressed and there were no changes that made them invisible. There were only two small bulges at the head and end of the Kong, which were probably Zibao and Fuebao. Because Zibao is not a good sleeper, the brother and sister must sleep on one side of each other when there is no adult to look after him, so as to prevent Zibao from punching and kicking Fuebao in his sleep. Seeing this scene, Wang Fengqiao felt relieved. It could be seen that both children were relatively measured. The child has gone to bed, and, why didn't you rest? Feng Qingxiu knew it well, but she still asked. Wang Fengqiao smiled and said, I'm here to keep you company. I asked Lu Zhang to check out the room I just entered. He lives with two comrades. We and our children will live in one room, so there will be one less room. You can save a lot of money. Every penny is hard-earned, and you have a group of children and elderly people to support, so you can save only a dime. This stick made it impossible for the couple to get together. Noticing Lu Jiang's sad eyes, Feng Qingxiu smiled, handed him his military coat, and pushed him out. Just listen to my aunt, you should return the extra house first, and then come and get your luggage. Lu Zhang went away dejectedly, wishing that the snow sealing the mountains would melt away immediately so that he could rush back to the army and live in his own home. Feng Qingxiu turned around and closed the door. Wang Fengqiao, who was sitting on the edge of the bed and looking at the photos, said, it's not easy to go out. There are more rules and regulations than our home, but I still feel at home. Zioxiu, let Lu Zhang buy it for me tomorrow ticket. Feng Qingxiu was stunned. Auntie, why don't you come with me to the army to see you? Why are you leaving in such a hurry? Ever since the train entered the plateau you mentioned, I feel uncomfortable all over, and my breathing is not as easy as at home. So I won't go to your army. Wang Fengqiao scratched her neck. When we get to the army's family room where you live, with what's the difference between staying in a hostel? I feel uneasy if I disturb your family reunion. Feng Qingxiu's face turned red. It depends on what you say. Wang Fengqiao added, the most important thing is that I can't let go of home. When I'm not at home, I don't know how your uncle eats, drinks, or wears clothes. The journey is long, and it takes 10 or 20 days to take a train. I don't know how many times it has been inspected, but it really makes me dizzy. I wonder if I can get home before the Spring Festival. It's not like I'm at home during the Chinese New Year. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 762. Feng Qingxiu calculated the time and found it was indeed a bit tight. It has now been 65 years. It is January in the Gregorian calendar and the beginning of the 12th lunar month in the lunar calendar. Wang Fengqiao wants to rush back to her hometown within 20 days. It is not realistic. No one can guarantee that the train will not have any problems along the way. As Wang Fengqiao said, the train had to stop many times for maintenance along the way. The workers and soldiers who built the railways were very hard working. They built the railways with their hands. The railway workers working in the railway bureau were also very hard working. They had to repair trains one after another every day to ensure that the trains run smoothly. This time they took an express train, which was said to have an average speed of about 50 km per hour and a maximum speed of 80 km per hour. The train departs from the capital and goes directly to their destination. Due to maintenance and railway problems, it actually does not reach this speed at all. If the road is good, it may reach this level, but if the road is bad, the speed will be extremely slow. The ride home is generally fast, not to mention the speed. Of course it's good to go back home before the New Year, but it's okay if you can't get there. The Chinese New Year in my hometown is nothing compared to the city. Which day in the capital is not better than celebrating the New Year at home? Wang Fengqiao didn't rush home for the Chinese New Year, but she didn't want to cause trouble to Lu Jiang and Feng Qingxiu. Let me tell you straight, I just can't let go of your uncle. Feng Qingxiu said. Oh, her voice was long and full of smiles. She understood, she understood, she understood completely. Wang Fengqiao's old face was a little red, and she stretched out her hand to hit her. Suddenly she heard Zibao yelling, "Hit! Hit her! Hit her!" As the sound rang out, the little guy waved his fists and kicked off the quilt with his feet. Soon, he turned over and continued to sleep soundly with his butt sticking out, his whole body curled up into a shrimp ball. Who did this brat hit again in his dream? It must be him and Zhang showing off his great achievements in the capital. I remembered the scene of beating Su Ping, and they were fighting in the dream. Feng Qingxiu was angry and funny, and made him turn over and lie down, covering yourself with the quilt again. After sleeping for about half an hour, Zibao woke up. Sitting up with a sudden sound, he said to Feng Qingxiu before he could rub his eyes, "I beat Dad to tears." Not only Wang Fengqiao and Feng Qingxiu were stunned, but also Lu Jiang, who knocked on the door and came back to get something, was dumbfounded when he heard this sentence and frowned immediately. "Lu Zibao, why did you hit me? How did I offend you?" His tone was indignant, but he hadn't even touched Lu Zibao with a finger. "Okay. But you can't let the other party wrong you." Zibao looked very excited when he saw his parents when he woke up. "Dad. Mom. Grandma." After being called out one by one, Zibao jumped up. After Lu Jiang repeated his question, he looked up at Lu Jiang with his fat face and blinked his big innocent eyes. "Dad is bad, I'm spanking you." Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, "Dad spanked you, so you spanked him and then made him cry, right?" "Yes. Dad spanked me, he didn't forget to reach out and touch his butt." Lu Jiang was so angry that he pointed at him. "Lu Zibao, you can do it?" "Dad, I'm very good," Zibao said without forgetting to give himself a nod on the head. Wang Fengqiao and Feng Qingxiu laughed out loud at the same time. "This child." Lu Jiang pretended to be angry and walked out, but Zibao didn't want to and stepped on the Kong with his feet staggered and his hands open towards him. "Dad, Dad, Dad, please hug me, hug me." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 763. Zibao has been bored in the car for so long, but he's exhausted. Now that it's not dark, you take him out to play for a while. When we were in the capital, we saw it snowing. I thought of the snowman you built with him. Our dad keeps talking about you. Hearing what Feng Qingxiu said, Lu Jiang's heart suddenly softened and he stopped. Zibao quickly squatted down and tried to slide off the Kong, but was caught by Feng Qingxiu. Mom will put on clothes and shoes for you, and Dad will take you out to play. Dad didn't want Zibao. Hurry, Zibao sat on the Kong and urged Feng Qingxiu to put on clothes and shoes for him. Fully armed and dressed up, Zibao slipped to the ground in a flash, ran to Lu Zhang, grabbed his free big hand, shook it vigorously, raised his face, and shouted sweetly, "Dad, let's go, play, snow." Feng Qingxiu said to Lu Zhang again, "Auntie wants to go home. See if you have a ticket to go home. Buy a sleeper berth ticket. Auntie is tired from the journey. Come back to the army with us to rest for a while before going home." Wang Fengqiao listened to Lu Jiang's words and said with a smile, "No, I will visit your army again next time I have a chance. I have to go home in a hurry to celebrate the New Year. I feel bad if I am not at home during the New Year." She had said so naturally Lu Jiang and Feng Qingxiu could no longer be persuaded to stay. "Okay, while I'm taking Zibao to play, I'll check if there are any tickets for the return trip in the past 2 days." Yes, it was around 10 o'clock the next morning. Lu Jiang bought a sleeper ticket for Wang Fengqiao, which cost more than 70 yuan, nearly 80 yuan. It was not far different from the ticket from the capital to here, a few yuan less, but Feng Qingxiu paid 2 a monthly salary is enough for this ticket. Each ticket was marked with a fee, and Wang Fengqiao twitched her lips in distress. "Why are these tickets so expensive? Your uncle and I have worked hard for 2 or 3 years but can't earn more than 80 yuan. I follow you here and there. Just 2 tickets cost our whole family several years' income. No wonder some children from Shilibaxiang are working as soldiers or third-line workers outside, and they don't go home for 3 to 5 years. It's because they don't have time and they don't have money, right? What a pity it would be to waste your salary on the road." Wang Fengqiao wished she could return her ticket and walk home on her own feet. Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, "Thousands of kilometers away, you have to wait until the end of the year of the monkey to get home. The ticket is a bit expensive, but we are also making a contribution to the country." When she went out to visit Lu Zhang for the first time, she felt so distressed that it cost 40 yuan. Now, she has become accustomed to the expensive train sleeper tickets, because compared with train tickets, air tickets are more expensive, and a bottle of Maotai per person seems very insignificant. Although the army arranged for them to fly, but later she and Du Xiaotao paid for the plane ticket herself. Fortunately, Lu Jiang's salary was always in her hands, otherwise something would have happened. Wang Fengqiao said, "Don't you have tickets? Lu Jiang, you can exchange them for tickets for me. The tickets are several times cheaper, right?" They bought tickets from their hometown to the capital, and it cost only 1 person. "How much? You have been sitting all the way back for such a long time. Aren't you afraid of swollen legs? You don't feel sorry for yourself, I feel sorry for you," Feng Qingxiu said. "I won't tell you any more. You can help me take care of the child. Zhang and I can use the kitchen of the guest house. Use it and make some dry food for you to take on the road." Father Lu and the others brought all the uneaten food they had brought to the capital, just in time to make dry food for Wang Fengqiao. The next day when I put Wang Fengqiao in the car, the heavy snow showed no sign of letting up. The speed and pricing of trains are not very accurate. If the road is good, the speed is fast, but if the road is bad, it will be haha. It needs to be repaired. You can just leave it at that. But at that time, the tickets were really expensive. 10 yuan can travel about 500 kilometers. I don't know if it refers to the sleeper class. The speed is still very slow and cannot reach the top speed at all. It is normal to take the train for 10.5 days. Many third-line workers and soldiers have poor families because they spend most of their wages on as for travel expenses. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 764. Wearing a cloak and snow, she returned to the guest house. When Feng Qingxiu was packing her luggage, She counted the money in her hand and coughed heavily. King Xiu, what's wrong with you? Is your throat uncomfortable? While Zibao was sitting at the Kong table eating fruit, Lu Jiang could finally hold his daughter around the house safely. Her daughter didn't cry or make trouble, which was better than Zibao's. Bao is much better behaved. However, as soon as he heard his wife's cough, Lu Jiang paid all his attention to his wife, with concern on his face. Next, we must be diligent and frugal. If we continue to spend extravagantly, the money will not be enough. Lu Jiang was stunned. You have no money? That shouldn't be the case. After buying Wang Fengqiao a ticket, he gave her some food stamps and meal money. The remaining wages for the past 2 months were given to Feng Qingxiu yesterday. In the past 2 months, except for food money, he did not buy anything from the local Tibetans, so he saved quite a bit. Feng Qingxiu nodded and shook her head, sighing, it's not like I'm completely broke. It's just that my expenses in the past 6 months have been too great. I spent hundreds alone. The air tickets, the bus tickets for my aunt and I, and the way back. I also gave some of Xiaoyun's living expenses to my uncle. My annual salary is far from enough. Speaking of this, Feng Qingxiu couldn't help but cover her face. You paid for my aunt's ticket back and the meals on the way. In the capital, I didn't give Dad a penny. Dad and my uncle bought their own tickets for the trip between the capital and Zibao. Dad and his relatives and friends buy high-priced goods for him, and he also pays for things he buys at flea markets or black markets. According to their consumption rate, the couple really can't make enough money to spend. If Commander Chen and Ye Zhenjun hadn't brought Lu Jiang's several months' salary to her, their mothers might not even be able to afford the travel expenses back to the army and would have to ask Lu Jiang's father for money. The more Feng Qingxiu talked, the more ashamed she became, spending money like water. I feel like a prodigal woman. Lu Jiang said, funny, didn't you give your father all your bank books before you came to the army? Thousands of dollars are in father's hands. Isn't it normal for you not to give him money? Besides, money is for spending. Yes, don't be too harsh on yourself and your family. I make money and you spend money. Isn't this a perfect match? A pear. Zibao raised his fat face covered with fruit stains. A pear. You brat, let's eat what you have. Why are you talking too much? Feng Qingxiu's face was a little red. Zibao stuck out his tongue at her and made a face. Dad said, a pear. Daddy, Daddy. Lu Jiang smiled and said, yes, what Dad said, Dad and Mom are a perfect match. Zibao, you can't say this to outsiders, you can only say it in front of Mom and Dad. Do you hear me? I know, Zibao agreed simply. Don't say these things in front of Zibao in the future, lest they spread. Who knows when a child will spill the beans. Zibao speaks more and more fluently now, and he especially likes to imitate parrots. It's embarrassing for others to hear our private conversations. Lu Jiang agreed immediately. I know, his tone was exactly the same as Zibao's. Zibao followed and shouted, I know, I know. Feng Qingxiu gave the father and son a big look. She lowered her head and carefully wrapped the 600 yuan in her hand with a handkerchief. She put it in her bag on the surface, but actually put it into the space. The remaining dozens of yuan were used as living expenses. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 765. When he learned that his family still had more than 600 yuan, Lu Jiang stared at his wife with wide eyes for a long time, and finally became helpless. Hearing you say poor and useless, I thought our family's money wouldn't last until next month. The salary allowance for the two of us adds up to more than 200 yuan per month. Living in the army, including all the favors, the cost of traveling and privately purchasing local medicinal materials costs 100 yuan a month. According to the bills you summarized, the most expensive items in the past 6 months are air tickets and train tickets, and you don't have to fly every month. Taking the train, Xiaoun's living expenses are not paid every month. I guess when you have time in the capital, you often buy antiques, jewelry, calligraphy and paintings, etc. You don't have this opportunity in the army. In order to avoid running out of money when you want to buy something, you can't spend it without restraint. As you said, buying antiques and cultural relics costs a lot of money. If you encounter them in the future, you can continue to buy them. It feels more secure to keep them in your own hands. Feng. When Qingxiu heard this, she felt that she needed to save more money. If she had the chance, she would go to various scrap collection stations, flea markets, and black markets to collect antiques and cultural relics. Thinking of this, Feng Qingxiu couldn't help but feel a little regretful. She originally planned to go to scrap collection stations and flea markets in the capital after her confinement, and buy as many antiques and cultural relics as possible to put in the space. Even if she couldn't keep them for herself in the future, she would donate them to the country. Credit. Some antiques can be kept for yourself as collections, while some cultural relics must be handed over. After Zibao finished eating the fruit, he suddenly wiped his mouth and said, "I have money." Feng Qingxiu and Lu Zhang were stunned at the same time, and the latter said, "I didn't hear your mother tell you to give you money. Where did you get the money?" Zibao had no worries about food and clothing since he was a child. Feng Qingxiu never gave him a penny, of course, except for the New Year's money, but he took back the New Year's money afterwards, including those given to him by his comrades in the army. "I have money." Zibao went to find his small satchel. This small satchel was made of colorful rags. It was made by the orderly at the old leader's house. It was brightly colored and Zibao liked it very much. For a while, he wore it every day, but later he forgot about it and threw it aside. Of course, he would still wear it cross-body for a few days when he remembered. "My bag, Mom, where is my bag?" Feng Qingxiu knew that the bag he was talking about was not a bag but a satchel, so she turned around and took it out for him. As soon as she got it in her hand, she felt something was wrong. The small satchel was bulging and there was something inside. Before she could open it to see what was going on, Zibao snatched it away, opened it himself, and poured out a large stack of unity. "I have money," Zibao shouted. There were at least dozens of unity cards in a stack. Feng Qingxiu and Lu Zhang looked at each other and asked each other at the same time, "Where did he come from?" "I don't know either, because I never taught Zibao to put anything in a small satchel. When I brought this satchel back from the old leader's house for the first time, it was empty. I didn't open the satchel after that. Zibao he didn't let me touch it. He stuffed it into his luggage bag when he was packing." After Feng Qingxiu finished speaking, she knelt down in front of Zibao and said, "Zibao, tell Mom, who gave you the money?" "Grandpa." Zibao's fat hand held a lot of money. "Buy cakes, buy fruits, buy meat." Feng Qingxiu frowned. "Mom knows that Grandpa gave it to you." "Which Grandpa gave it to you?" As she said that, she took out all the photos. "Tell Mom, which Grandpa gave it to you." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 766. Zibao poked the face of the old leader in the photo with one hand. "Grandpa, Grandpa, give it to the baby, buy the fruit." "Mom, buy the fruit, buy the cake, buy the fruit, give it to the baby, not to my sister. Eat." "The old leader gave it to you." Feng Qingxiu looked surprised, and this surprise soon turned into a sudden realization. She knew, she should have thought of it. The old leader and his wife never used any of the people's money. Feng Qingxiu made him a set of clothes and shoes because of Zibao's words. The old leader gave back his calligraphy treasure, but in the old leader's opinion, the calligraphy treasure was worthless. It was worth it, so he secretly gave Zibao money, which may have included Lu's father paying for grain, cotton, and other specialties in his hometown. It turned out that the old leader did not really accept it calmly, but was prepared for this move. If you bring it back to Zibao, isn't it just giving it to the Lu family? Feng Qingxiu quickly explained to Lu Zhang, and then asked Zibao, "Baby, come on, tell mom, when did grandpa give it to you? What did grandpa say when he gave it to you?" The old leader secretly gave the money to Zibao. How much confidence did he have in Zibao? Aren't you afraid that Zibao will be lost? Zibao blinked his big eyes, not understanding what Feng Qingxiu meant. Feng Qingxiu slowed down and repeated word for word, "Can you tell mom? Mom wants to know." "Grandpa, I will buy fruit for the baby, and mommy will buy fruit." Zibao kept repeating the original words. Lu Zhang couldn't help but said, "Zibao is too young, and it has been so long. Isn't it difficult for him to ask him to repeat the old leader's words? Just know that it was given by the old leader. You can keep the money." Feng Qingxiu hummed and said to Zibao, "Baby, can mom help you put the money away? I'll buy you some fruit." "Buying Kuakuo?" Zibao asked. "Well, let's buy Kuakuo for the baby." After receiving Feng Qingxiu's promise, Zibao took the money into her hand and reminded her again and again, "Buy Kuakuo. Buy, 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 buy." Feng Qingxiu counted them. There were 30 great unity sheets in total, brand new ones. 300 yuan. Seeing Feng Qingxiu nodding, Lu Zhang sighed softly, "The old leader is so polite. The clothes and shoes you made and the specialties prepared by our production team shouldn't be worth so much, right?" "Definitely, nowadays, the price of food and cloth is so low. The only thing that is higher is high-priced goods. Among them, the fabric of the old chief's clothes is more expensive. I guess the old chief must have sent this money to dad and was refunded by dad. The old leader's life is much tighter than ours, and his salary is basically gone every month. Lu Jiangdao, if you have time, make some clothes for the old leader and send them to him. That's all they can do." "Yes, I will." Zibao had such a good relationship with the old leader, so of course she wanted to continue to deepen their relationship. It was not that she was snobbish, but as someone who had seen the old leader's body in the memorial hall decades later, she couldn't hide her feelings for her. The admiration of the old leader, and living in a special era, of course he must take this opportunity to protect his family. Zibao didn't care about the conversation between the couple and urged Feng Qingxiu, "Mom, buy Kuakuo." He pointed at the money that Feng Qingxiu had not yet confiscated, as if I give you money, you have to buy me Kuakuo. Feng Qingxiu wanted to put the dishes, chopsticks, cups, plates, scrolls, jewelry, and other things in her luggage into the space, so she said to him, "Let dad take you out to buy fruit, and mom will take care of my sister at home." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 767. Zibao's first reaction was to grab all the money and say, "I won't give it to you. If you don't buy it for me, I won't give you money." Feng Qingxiu was stunned, while Lu Zhang laughed. The laughter woke Fu Bao up and started crying. The delicate and soft daughter is much softer than Zibao. Lu Zhang couldn't coax him for a long time, so he quickly handed it over to Feng Qingxiu. "Look, is Fu Bao hungry? Or peed? I don't smell the smell of shit and urine smells." When Fu Bao arrived in her mother's arms, she stopped crying when her mother hummed a few songs. Lu Zhang wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, "Okay, brat, don't disturb your sister while she's sleeping at home. Give the money to dad, and dad will take you out to buy Kuakuo. See what kind of Kuakuo you can buy in the stores outside. It's probably nothing. Good stuff. Dad has to rush back to the army early tomorrow morning. There is no other way to ask him to take you to buy Kuakuo in a short period of time." Feng Qingxiu was stunned when she heard this, raised her head and said, "Are you going back tomorrow?" What about us? Lu Jiang said helplessly, the snow is falling endlessly, and the mountains are covered with ice and snow. It won't melt for a while. Cars can't get in and out, so I have to force you mothers to live in the guest house temporarily. Feng Qingxiu said, I can also walk back with you, you are so fragile. No, you should rest here first. When the snow melts, Xiao Sang and I will drive to pick you up. I can see that your complexion is not as good as before. You must have lost your vitality when you gave birth to Fu Bao. You worked so hard during pregnancy. Fu Bao was born so fat, and he left the capital in a hurry not long after his confinement. I felt sad when I heard that. Feng Qingxiu touched her face. Did she take the train? She didn't feel that she looked bad. In fact, she paid great attention to her body at all times and took good care of her body. Otherwise, how could she have made Fu Bao so fat? Lu Jiang was afraid that she would insist on going back with him, so he quickly put on his military coat and military hat, took Zibao out in his arms. Zibao's hats, scarves, and gloves are only put on after taking them out. I will discuss this issue with you when you come back, Feng Qingxiu hummed. Because Lu Jiang closed the door after he went out, she fed Fu Bao and laid her down on the kong while she went to clean up. Luggage. The cups, plates, bowls, pots and other porcelain and other antique jewelry that were packed in the luggage, clothes and bedding were put into the space. The luggage bag instantly became lighter by more than half. In fact, some of it had been placed in the space a long time ago. Then, the wind and snow I also temporarily put some clothes, shoes, socks and other luggage into the space. On the surface, it still looks like a bulging luggage bag, but in fact, the weight is reduced by half. A miracle happened during the night, the snow stopped. Early the next morning, Feng Qingxiu said to Lu Jiang, God is good, and he probably wants us to go back with you. You carry Zibao on your back, I hold Fu Bao, and Xiao Han and Xiao Gao help share some of the luggage. You can go back with us, take some. She had it all arranged. The wind is so strong, don't freeze you and the children. Feng Qingxiu interrupted him, wrap yourself tightly so you won't get cold. No one will get cold. Besides, moving will generate yang. Han Ping and Gao Yuzhu looked on with smiles and neither of them interrupted. Zibao is so cute, so of course he brought it back to the army, and it can add countless laughter to everyone. Besides, you know the situation here better than anyone else. Our mothers live in a guest house. Aren't you worried? As soon as Feng Qingxiu asked the question, Lu Jiang's face showed a hint of hesitation. He had originally asked the military police near the train station to help take care of them, but now that he thought about it, he was still a little worried. He was worried that Feng Qingxiu would not be able to take care of the two by herself. A child. Come back after 6 o'clock for the remaining 2 chapters and continue typing. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 768. Unable to defeat Feng Qingxiu, Lu Jiang had no choice but to take her on the road with him. Feng Qingxiu was carrying a medical kit and a satchel and holding Fu Bao. Han Ping and Gao Yuzhi shared most of the luggage. Lu Jiang was carrying a luggage bag in one hand and a 11 bao tied to his back. He was fully armed and had 11 bao on his body. Wearing a small cotton cloak and a windshield, he was lying on Lu Jiang's back with his eyes looking around, looking lively. Ride a big horse, Zibao was extremely excited. After holding Fu Bao for a long time, my arms were very tired, and I was also very tired from walking. The road was difficult to walk in the ice and snow. At this time, Lu Jiang would take over and hold Fu Bao for a while, and the luggage bag was immediately taken away by Han Ping and Gao Yu. Zhu took it over. Gao Yuzhu himself brought some luggage, but Han Ping and Lu Jiang came to pick him up and had nothing but equipment. On the way, when Feng Qingxiu was feeding Fu Bao, they would also stay far away. Taking Feng Qingxiu and the child with them, they walked and stopped along the way, eating some solid food to satisfy their hunger. They arrived at the army before dark, because night came later here, an hour or two later than in the plains. As soon as they entered the gate of the camp, they received a warm welcome. Zibao, Zibao is back. Zibao, come on, I've prepared malted milk for you. Can you come home with me? Zibao, don't go home with her. I have dried yak and butter tea. Zioxiu has been here for half a year. I really miss Zibao. Happy baby, happy baby, happy baby, happy baby. Hearing so many people calling him, Zibao poked his little head out of the hood of his cloak, grinned, revealing a pair of big dimples and 2 rows of small white teeth, and even waved his chubby hand. Comrade, hello, comrades, thank you for your hard work. When the words fell, everyone was stunned and the whole place was silent. After silence, everyone burst out laughing, laughing so hard. Zibao, who did you learn this from? Grandpa. Zibao felt that their reaction was wrong. His little face turned red with anxiety, and he stretched out his upper body and waved his hands. No, that's not right. Tell me, you are a good leader and you serve others. Lu Zhang asked Feng Qingxiu, has this kid ever had a military parade with the old leader? I don't know. He is a frequent visitor to the old leader's house. Has the old leader ever taken him out? He won't tell me, and the guards around the old leader don't talk too much. Feng Qingxiu herself was dumbfounded. Okay. Zhao Yang heard the laughter and rushed over. After asking the reason, he laughed so much that tears came out. Okay, Zibao, we all serve the people. Although there is no word for leadership, there are a few familiar words for serving the people. Zibao nodded his little head with satisfaction. Zhao Yang happened to be closer to Lu Jiang, and Zibao was still on Lu Jiang's back, condescending. He patted Zhao Yang on the shoulder matter-of-factly, comrade, you are very good. I'm fine, Zhao Yang pointed to his nose. Yeah. Grandpa said yes, Zibao said confidently. It's incredible, it's incredible. This child is so smart at such a young age. How can he be so smart when he grows up? Zhao Yang couldn't help but touch Zibao's head, and then looked at Feng Qingxiu. Zioxiu, you, how did you raise the child? Oh, you are holding Fubao, come on, let me hold our little Fubao, he must be as cute and smart as 11 Bao. There is another chapter, keep working hard. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 769. Feng Qingxiu was already tired from holding Fubao, so she immediately handed Fubao over, shook her sore and numb arms, flexed her wrists, and then pressed the acupuncture points on her arms with her fingers to relieve fatigue. Zibao also patted Lu Jiang's shoulder with his little hand. Come down, come down. Feng Qingxiu went up to untie the cloth belt, and he slid down smoothly. He stepped on the snow and jumped on the spot, almost slipping. Fortunately, he grabbed Lu Jiang's military coat with one hand to steady himself. That's bad. Zibao stared at the snow under his feet and stomped his feet several times. After half a year's absence, everyone's interest in seeing Zibao, who became even more adorable, became more intense, especially his performance just now. So many people gathered around him to tease him, completely ignoring Lu Jiang and Feng Qingxiu. Zibao, Jinzuzu called him first, and after Zibao looked over, he continued, do you miss your aunt? Zibao doesn't often call people aunt. When he heard this unfamiliar name, he poked his cheek with his fat index finger and said, think so. Anyway, this answer is correct. As expected, Jinzuzu looked very happy. Feng Qingxiu looked at Jinzuzu's belly that was still not covered by her military cotton jacket and military trousers. Congratulations, congratulations. Thank you. Jinzuzu couldn't hide her joy. When you have rested in 2 days, I will come to you to learn the art of nursing during pregnancy, learn how to take care of the child and educate the child. See how well Zibao is raised? In the entire army, there is no second child who can compare with Zibao. Of course, there is Fu Bao. Zhao Yang had seen Fu Bao, and everyone passed it around. Good guy, she is such a fat girl. She looks as lucky as Zibao. She is fat, and is very popular among people. Comrade Qingxiu knows how to raise children. Next time he will teach you his own methods and ask all the female comrades to follow suit. If the children in our army are as good as Zibao, they will definitely have successors. This child is so smart. Talking in a hurry, they hugged Fu Bao one after another, and finally handed it to Feng Qingxiu. Although Fu Bao is good, he is too young, cannot speak, and is not as lively and smart as 11 Bao. Looking at you, I know you came back on foot. I don't know how far you have walked. Go back and rest quickly. Before Lu Zhang left, he handed the house to your sister-in-law. It has been cleaned cleanly and the stove is burning, Zhao Yang said. Feng Qingxiu was indeed tired, so she was not polite to them. Brother Zhao, let's go first. After saying that, she called Zibao. Zibao likes to be lively, and so many people like him. He doesn't want to leave, so he waves his little hand. Bye, Mom, I'll play. He means you go back first. I will stay here to play, and then go back when I have enough fun. Feng Qingxiu would not indulge him. Well, you can stay here. It's getting dark soon. It's time for uncles, aunts, and uncles to go home for dinner. No one wants Zibao. As soon as he heard what she said, Zibao grabbed her military coat and said, Go home, go home. The baby stopped playing and waved to everyone. Goodbye, comrades. After returning to their homes and lighting the kerosene lamps, Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu could still vaguely hear everyone's laughter. Lu Zhang quickly poured hot water for Feng Qingxiu to wash her face and soak her feet. Fortunately, there were no blisters on her feet. After drying her feet, Lu Zhang said, After a day of walking, eat something and rest. Other things will be done tomorrow no more. Although a breakup is better than a new marriage, reality never gives him a chance to win over a new marriage. Tomorrow he will have to lead people to train for 5 days. Chapter 10, Please vote. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 770. Feng Qingxiu slept until 8 or 9 o'clock, but was woken up by Zibao patting her face. Lu Zhang is no longer visible in the house, but the diapers that Fu Bao changed at night have been washed and placed next to the stove. Under the pillow is a note left by Lu Zhang, which writes in a colorful way, My daughter, 11 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 7 o'clock, order some milk powder and I'll be back in 5 days. The signature is the character. Feng Qingxiu picked it up and looked at it 2 or 3 times before pretending to put it in her bag, but actually put it into the space. It is safest to store many things and letters at home in a space. Mom, Zibao called her and touched his belly. Eat. Hearing Zibao's reminder, Feng Qingxiu came back to her senses and said with a smile, Okay, let's get up and get dressed first, wash our faces and brush our teeth. She actually prepared a baby toothbrush for Zibao, but she didn't know it was thrown away by him. Where has it gone? After the couple finished eating, they fed Fu Bao another bottle of milk. 11 Bao couldn't wait to go out and play. Once you get used to it, you can't stay at home. Okay, mommy will take you out to play with grandma and grandma. So, Feng Qingxiu carried a large shoulder bag filled with the capital's specialties, held her daughter in her arms, and went out. Her son left by himself, but walking in the family compound, he saw many unfamiliar faces. Most of them are elderly, and most of the younger ones are children. Feng Qingxiu didn't know her, but that didn't stop her from politely nodding hello to him. Regardless of her age, she always called her sister-in-law. Zibao has a sweet mouth and also barks randomly. When he is older, he calls him grandma. When he is about 40 or even 50 or 60 years old, he calls him grandma. In his opinion, he is probably at the level of grandma. After all, the other person's appearance has been changed and he looks very old. Young children call him grandma. Brothers and sisters, that is, the women in the middle age group, are ignored. He doesn't know what to call, so he just rolls his big eyes and smiles at others. When they walked over, Lu Zayadai curled her lips. Isn't it just because I gave birth to a son? I'm showing off everywhere, stealing food and drink. She touched her slightly protruding belly and said to a young woman standing next to her, "Don't look at them. This is the worst thing. I think they are pretty good together. The mother is kind and the son is lively and cute. This woman's name is Jin Feng. Her husband Fan Zheng is a battalion commander. The family room is arranged next to Lu Zayadai. It is close and she has similar ideas. She has more contacts than other families. Jin Feng and her 2 children have just arrived in the army. In the past 3 months, I have already seen the family members of the army in the compound. I have never seen Rufeng Qingxiu and occasionally heard people talk about it. Mainly, many family members of the army talk about Zibao. After hearing Jin Feng's words, Lu Zayadai immediately said, "Do you know? Or do I know? I came earlier than you. I know exactly who is good and who is bad in the compound." "That's right. Of course my sister-in-law won't coax me," Jin Feng said with a smile. "What's wrong with their family?" "Sister-in-law, tell me." When someone asked, Lu Zayadai vented her dissatisfaction. "I'm telling you, they just took advantage of their having a son and their high rank to ask their comrades to buy things for their son every day. They bought high-priced goods, whether they were biscuits, chicken cakes, malted milk, or high-end toffee. Otherwise, do you think he can grow so fat?" Not only that, Feng Qingxiu also took advantage of his status as brigade commander and joined the army as a medic, earning a salary of dozens of dollars a month. It would be strange if there was nothing fishy in it.